for sure. But today, the year of Live, Laugh, Love, and Play continues, episode 134, with the beautiful, delightful, and incredibly talented Julie Ryan McGue. And our theme today is cheers, pass it on, which, embracing joy in June is what Magical Guide speaks to. And certainly, with your story and everything that you bring to the table, there's lots of joy, certainly the survival, thriving, etc. But we'll talk about that as we get into the show. So everybody, invite you all to set your intentions, and away we go. Welcome, Julie. I'm so happy to have you. Finally.
Yay, I'm so glad that we finally got together and in person, sort of.
Sort of. Well, it's as close as we're going to get for now. So let me explain what we're doing today to everyone. Certainly this is a show about, transforming your, ideas into reality and embracing possibility. I always embrace the extraordinary, and certainly Julie is that. She's an American author, a domestic adoptee, and an identical twin. In her books, essays, and blogs, she explores the topics of finding out who you are, where you belong, and making sense of it. She's the author of 2 books right now: Twice a Daughter, A Search for Identity, Family, and Belonging, and Belonging Matters, Conversations on Adoption, Family, and Kinship. Her 3rd book, which is her prequel to the memoir, is Twice the Family, A Memoir of Love, Loss, and Sisterhood, and that releases in February of 2025. So a lot going on, certainly a lot of creative energy going on in your neck of the woods for sure. And it's so great to have you here and to start this conversation with you. I love that you're all pink and we're kind of matching that. We got the yellow going.
Yeah.
Today specifically, I love the idea of embracing your joy in June. And I really love the quote we have today in the Magical Guide to Bliss. And I'll bring it to you in a moment. So it is: you find yourself refreshed by the presence of cheerful people. Why not make an honest effort to confer that pleasure on others? Half the battle is gained if you never allow yourself to say anything gloomy. That was Julia Child, the American chef, author, and television personality. I find this really fascinating because, the fact of the matter is she was always kind of cheerful and witty. And certainly, her theater of choice is the kitchen, but our theater of choice is the writing page, right? And
Right.
it's kind of interesting when you wake up to this notion that every person you meet today, you're going to bring some cheer to. And I think that that's kind of perfect for you, because even in the realm of experiencing great loss and really challenges, certainly with your adoptee story, etc., that you really do bring a lot of cheer and joy to the world. And the key to bliss today is wake up with the goal of being a cheerful one today. And I think that in the world that we're living today, sometimes it might be really challenging. I would love to know your thoughts as to how you do that. How do you show up in the world so bright?
It's not a conscious effort. I think we're wired that way. I'm not always in a great mood, certainly, but there's a lot of things that I am able to do for myself, like a really good cup of coffee will put me in a fabulous mood first thing in the morning. Some yoga, meditation, and I think, like you said, being around other people, I think it brings out the best in us if we let it, and shine some joy or some positive thoughts to those people.
I think that it's also very interesting because I'm always someone who tends toward the dark side. I know that is kind of shocking because I always talk about bliss and, happiness and all of that. But I think people who seek that so much also deal with the other side, and certainly challenges of life, make that, more of an effort sometimes. I know your story is really quite interesting as far as, where you are today in your journey so far. I'd love for you to share a little bit from your past, or from where you are to how you are today, how you've gotten to this place.
Yeah, so interesting that I think, well, and when I was 48, so wow, gosh, 15 years ago, my sister and I were adopted. We're twins. We were raised together. I had this breast biopsy, and my husband insisted that I get my family medical history for my sister and I, for our health, but also for our kids. Between us, we have 6. And I was very reluctant. I knew how my parents were going to react to that.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that that breast biopsy and him insisting that I go on this path was going to lead to writing a book, finding birth relatives, understanding my personal story, something that I had probably been toying around with in my subconscious for a long time, but I didn't know how to start. So the first book, Twice a Daughter, talks about that, talks about the whole process of finding people. Not an easy task in a closed adoption because you have really a redacted birth certificate. You don't even have your original birth record. It was a fascinating experience. I can say that now in hindsight.
Yeah.
Grueling, a lot of growth, certainly. And then because I had that writing practice, I was writing essays and blogs and getting articles published. And that's what the second book was born out of. It's a collection of essays. And I think one of the things that I like to talk about in regards to both books is belonging is something that all of us face from the very beginning of time. I always belonged to my twin sister. I knew that. Did I belong to my birth family? I didn't until I was a middle-aged person. I had this other family that I belonged to. Middle schoolers seek belonging just trying to find the right lunch table, right?
Yeah.
To sit
Yeah.
at and share lunch. And a high schooler, you're trying to figure out, do I belong on the cheer squad, the volleyball team, the tennis team, or whatever? So I think belonging is something that we all struggle with. Where you and I decided to belong as far as writers with She
Yeah.
Writes Press, that's a journey. And then, I had this foundation of understanding who I was identity wise
Mm.
with my adoption. And then my husband's cancer came back in a vicious way, and he passed away 2 years ago. So here I am in the middle stages of life, and I'm still trying to figure out belonging. I'm not a wife anymore, but I'm still a wife.
Mhm.
I'm still a sister. I'm still a mother. I'm still a daughter. And I'm trying to figure out what my life looks like going forward. And I think people are always doing this in their lives, whether it's because of financial circumstances or health, moving, relocating, a new job. We're all looking for belonging every day. And we shouldn't get frustrated with it because it's just a fact of our life. Going back to the positive mindset,
Yeah.
not every day is a great day, but I have this firm belief that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And I say that to myself when I'm having a bad day, a griefy day, or a frustrating day. Right now, I'm sitting in a parking lot at a car dealer because my car needed to be serviced today. So you're the bright spot of my day today.
I get to be the one of the cheerful ones for you. It's funny. I've kind of incorporated. I've started incorporating dancing, Zumba again into my
Mhm.
life. That makes me so happy, and the way people like express themselves, just so it feels so free when you're dancing to music that just like you just let yourself go, and who cares? There's no mirrors, no one's looking at. Who cares? And then the other side of the coin, the whole meditative component through yoga. I've been doing that as well. And it's funny because back to your point with regards to belonging, I think it's so interesting because you knew you were adopted. I mean, you and your
Right.
sister knew you were adopted. Did that change about the whole understanding of what that looked like for the both of you when you started looking into your birth family?
Um, our belonging with each other is something that is very unique about being adopted. There aren't a lot of twins that are adopted. In fact, after I wrote Twice a Daughter, five sets of twins contacted me who had also been adopted, and we've had this sort of Facebook email conversation about it. So being raised with a full sibling is a real quirk in the adoption world. I know how blessed I was to have had her in my life. We've always belonged to each other, and going down that path of finding our secrets, if you will, was made so much easier because she was in lockstep with me the whole way. We had a lot of decision paths, and there were a lot of triggering situations that we mutually supported each other. So being a twin has been, in every sense of the world, the biggest support that I could ever have dreamed of having.
And you're identical twins too, so
We are. Yeah, that was
yeah.
something that we didn't know, that came out in the search for our birth relatives. We were told that we were fraternal twins. We looked just alike. I'm looking at the picture of my book there. But somehow that little piece of information got, I don't know, misconnected between the hospital and our birth parents and our adoptive parents. And it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal when you don't have any truths about yourself. The most simple thing got mixed up. Um,
I find it fascinating also that you literally have a platform now that you speak to a lot of adoptees, and you've become a source of a bright, I would say a cheerful spot. Let's speak to the theme for today, for other adoptees to have that opportunity for that social support, which is really important when we're talking about surrounding yourself with people who have similar experiences. It resonates with them. They feel like, oh, there might be, like, through your story, some hope for everyone who's been in this particular world. How has that impacted you since you published this book, Twice a Daughter?
just astounding that people will read the book, or they've been given the book, and they'll reach out and they'll say, I had no idea how to get started with this search. Or I've tried to connect with birth relatives and it didn't work. I think being heard, feeling like someone else can affirm your journey,
Mhm.
affirm your struggles with identity and family. I think putting it out on the page and having a story be successful. I have over 1,000 Amazon reviews, which is just crazy to me to realize how so many people were connected to the book. I think that there's a lot more awareness in our society about these stories of people connecting or not being able to connect to their biological family. Um, so it's been a powerful lesson for me to realize that my story, while it's my own, is really so many other people's story too.
Yeah. What compelled you to actually put it down and publish it?
There's some crazy twists in my story. I find a brother and a sister that I didn't know I had, and my relationship with them. I won't spoil the ending chapter, but my relationship to them is so close and so uncanny that if whenever I tell somebody the story, they like, "You got to read this book. This is crazy." And for those people that are interested in it, certainly it may end up making it to the big screen. There's a screenwriter working on it, and some folks that are interested in it. So we'll see what happens.
And so
Manifesting.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And one of the things I love about this is also that I ask about what inspires you, and I get these really awesome quotes. And today, your beautiful quotes are. I was so happy. The Velveteen Rabbit. You've
Ah,
added that one to the list,
love
and
that.
it's wonderful. And it's just wonderful. And it says, "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily, or have sharp edges, or have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in your joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly except to people who don't understand." And that's Marjorie Williams. Oh, please tell me. This is, first of all, I love the Velveteen Rabbit. So it must mean something significant to you to actually add this. But what does this mean for you?
Well, I really feel like that once I discovered my adoption story and understood what it was all about, that I had become real. That there was part of me that, because I didn't have all this information, I was kind of an imposter, or a wannabe. And so writing my story and finding everything made me feel real, made me feel like I know all of who I am. And I love that it happened in middle age. So I feel like I have, not all my eyebrows and not all everything else. So there's a lot of parallels between the Velvet and Rabbit becoming real and me writing my story.
And I love that it's middle aged too, because at the same time you're turning a chapter, like a whole new world. Like for you, like you said, to your point, your husband passed away. That's a whole nother, like he's the one who encouraged you to go search for your biological parents in the first place. And then
Yeah.
he was there with you when when you had all the information in front of
Yeah.
you. So that's very special too. But even with that, it's kind of like he came and also helped you realize the real you too.
Yeah, I really, was saying this to my sister the other day. I really feel like he launched me and put wonderful place to be able to weather this difficult point in life. And so I'm very grateful to him for getting all of this going and for having something besides children and grandchildren to find worth in myself.
Oh, that's amazing. What an incredible gift to give to another person, especially your person, that he would, like, before he goes, pass on. And I feel that way about my own experience with my mom. It was kind of they tap the next, person and leave that genius so they can continue. And you are making a difference in this world with what you're doing and helping others to also realize their realness, which I love. Like I said, the Velveteen Rabbit. It's a wonderful, wonderful quote as well as book. And then we have, okay, this is great because you put Babe Ruth. I wouldn't expect this from you, but you just can't be the person who never gives up. That I can understand. But Babe Ruth, I wasn't. So are you a big fan of Babe Ruth?
Well, certainly, I grew up watching the New York Yankees movie about Babe Ruth when I was a kid, and I had no idea this quote was Babe Ruth until I went looking for it. And my story about writing Twice a Daughter was about you just cannot give up there, and that is a lesson that I want to impart to the readers is there is always a workaround. You walk up to a gatekeeper and they say no. There's another way
Love
to
it.
get around that person. It just takes time for that to unfold. So um, just try not to get completely beat up and be patient. It'll happen.
Yeah, I do love the fact that never give up is kind of like that, like hum behind you. Don't give up. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. It's kind of like that thing that pushes us all on. Why? Everyone says, why do you achieve 3 books now? You're in 3 books. Why? How? Who? Why you? It's because you have that passion in you. And I think it has to do a lot with what this quote's all about. You can't beat the person who never gives up. There's no way. You can't squash their soul. And I think, to your point, I would love to know, was there a point in time where you might have?
Definitely with in my adoption story, there was a point where we didn't have our birth father's real name. Our birth mom had given us a version that wasn't correct, so he wasn't easy to find. And we were about a year into the story and thinking it was done, that we were only going to have half of our medical history and a nice relationship with our birth mom. She did not have any other kids, so my twin sister and I were it. And then all of a sudden, this idea came to me to hire a genealogist to help with the story. And she was adopted, so she knew a lot of avenues to research that weren't available to just anybody. And she broke the story open. So we were patient. We didn't know we were going to break the story open, but we did. And um, so we never were really down in the dumps. We were just waiting for the next opportunity.
Are you someone who is always paying attention to the signs that life delivers to you?
Absolutely. I feel like there's a symbol in everything that we look at. I have consulted a medium before several times. So I have signs that I'm looking for that people that have passed on and spirit guides are giving me. There's a lot of symbolism in life if we choose to look for it.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And then, of course, this wonderful last, I mean,
Mm,
love is patient, love is kind. It's Corinthians. Oh, if we could all remember this constantly, it's always, and I just want to submit at the heart of all of everything is love. And to be loving is to be the happiest we show up as. But tell me, what does this mean to you?
oh my gosh, this quote has been threaded through my whole life. It was very important to me when I was in college and my sorority. This was one of our mottos. It was a reading that my husband and I had at our wedding
Mm,
37, 8 years ago. And it's also a quote that I have in my new book coming out in February, Twice the Family. And I think we are called to remind ourselves about this. If we are a loving person, respectful of other people's rights, we are called to be patient. We are called to be kind.
mm.
And whether it looks like we're being rewarded with that virtue, um, sometimes it's hard to see that, but I think ultimately there are so many rewards with taking this into your heart.
That's beautiful. It was at my wedding too. We had love is patient, love is kind, the whole thing. And I keep saying, oh, we seem to forget quite often. But if we go back to the wisdom really of the ages, that simplicity, and for all of those in the podcast world, the picture is absolutely stunning because there are these gorgeous flowers. It feels like spring rings anew, and there's purple flowers and tulips, it looks like, and it just bursting with transformational beauty. When we are patient and kind, then we can bloom into a different reality. And I absolutely love that you included this, because I think for, to be cheerful, if we have no love at our heart, in our soul, or even to be kind with ourselves, then it's not going anywhere. So I think that I really appreciate that you added this. So let's talk about your second book, because I know we talked about Twice a Daughter, but you also said you journaled and you came up with the Belonging Matters conversations on adoption, family, and kinship. These were all basically things that you blogged. Is that right?
Correct. And some of them were pieces that I wrote for journals or other publications. I have a column that I write for my local paper here in Indiana. So some of them came from there. Um, I look at it as a companion piece for Twice a Daughter. There's a lot of topics, Mag, from writing a book. There's so much you wish you could put in a book, and then you can't include it, or you have included it and then you have to take it out. So there's a lot of essays in this book about my family, about my husband, my kids, but also about adoption and some of the hurtful things that happened as a result of reaching out to birth relatives and for example, not being included in family reunions because it was uncomfortable for certain people. Um, yeah, it was really fun to put it together. It's an interesting thing to have a collection of essays kind of come in between the meat in a sandwich to two memoirs. So um, it was fun for me to do.
So tell me, the next one you're writing, you said the prequel to Twice the Daughter, now Twice the Family. I have one question with regard to that is, did you always feel comfortable being an adoptee, or was it something that you later in life embraced? Like, because you talk about identity a lot, and I know that as
Yeah.
growing up, it might be really hard to.
It was very easy for me to talk about being a twin. It was not easy to be talking about being adopted. Adoption was kind of a stigma in the era in which I was growing up. We were placed in a family by Catholic Charities so that we would look like them, so that we wouldn't stand out as not belonging. Nowadays, adoption is different. Families go through quite a interrogation, and birth parents are more involved with picking the adoptive parents for their child, which was not the case in the closed adoption era.
Compelled you to write this book now? Is it?
So, people that read Twice a Daughter would email and say, we want to know more about what it was like to grow up in your family, grow up as a twin, grow up as an adoptee. So this book came from that urging. It was hard to write this next book
Oh, really?
because I had to dig back so many years. I consulted my twin on a lot of things and my mom. I have a sister that passed away when I was a teenager. And so there was some troubled times there for my family. And talking about the stories that I wanted to put in the book made my sister and I and my mom a lot closer too. I think it was very healing for my mom to go back and be able to pull back some of these stories and add her 2 cents. So I had a lot of experts in this next book.
But
And
your
so it
mom
was fun for me to collaborate with them.
but your adopted mom didn't seem threatened by all of this. This whole
She was very threatened by the first book. It came out after COVID. There's a couple chapters that were not flattering of her because she wasn't being the best version of herself. There's a lot of growth between in our relationship towards the end of the book, and she comes out being favorable.
yeah.
Um, and she really didn't want me to find my birth mom. She was fearful of her, threatened by her. Now she asks about her. So we have come full circle. There's been a lot of growth for everybody.
Yeah, I always say, as long as you don't stop in the messy parts, and keep moving it forward, then you
Yeah.
will get over the messy parts, so to speak, and they'll make you even better at the other side of
And
the
there's always going to be messy parts,
yeah,
right? I mean, everybody's life has messy parts and clean parts. And if you've escaped any messy parts, wow, are you lucky? But
oh,
uh,
yeah. I'm like or you're lying. I think that
yeah,
people well, there's secrets sometimes people don't really want to look at in their lives, and the fact of the matter is when they cover it up and try to hide it, they come blaring out, and it's like, "Oh,
yeah.
for God's sake," it's like, "Oh."
And that's the case with DNA, ancestry, and 23andMe. It's how we found out we were not fraternal, but a lot of people, and there's a lot of news stories now of people that are connecting with relatives and then realize maybe one of their parents is really not one of their biological parents. So there's so much to do in dealing with
Yeah,
that
and
knowledge.
the idea, like, behind identity and how, like, who we thought we were and
Who we
who
thought we were,
we thought we
and
were.
then that confuses who you feel like you belong to.
Like, your whole life, you're, like, holding strong to this one notion, and you're just sometimes just like, "Oh, well, there you go. There is nothing to do with that." What would be that advice you would give to other people well, with regard to adoption or anything for that matter?
A support group has been very helpful to me in the adoption world, getting in the same space with other adoptees, but also birth parents and
Yeah,
adoptive parents that can share their perspective. That's been very helpful to me. I've also been in grief support groups,
yeah.
and I think connecting to people that have your shared experience, that shares some of your own frustrations and joys, is very healing. And I recommend anybody that's struggling to join some kind of support group. And you don't have an excuse because there's so much online, on
Right.
Facebook. There's so many great resources that 20 years ago, we would not have been able to connect so easily with people that are in our own situation.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love the idea, like you're saying, you're manifesting, in your life, the vision of who you may have been before you published your first book has significantly changed by virtue of the different events that have happened. It's time to manifest. And for me, that just means you get to share your magic with all of us. So what has made the most difference in your life as far as those positive steps forward?
I think when you tackle a really difficult problem, you have no idea what it's going to look like on the other side. And I feel like I'm in a better place for having tackled this identity, this belonging issue about adoption. I think some of the gifts that I learned from that journey has helped me understand my new role as a younger widow. And I think sometimes we don't understand the gifts of some of the struggles that we're given, and until much later, how they have benefited us.
One of the things I ask about is like, what are best tools and practices that help you keep moving this beautiful journey that you've created for yourself forward?
Well, like you, I have a yoga practice that I try to do at least 4 times a week, and I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes. That seems to be able to reset any kind of foul mood or um, energy that's lagging. It is a wonderful thing. Rewires our brain to think more positively. So that would be something I would definitely recommend to people to try.
What's been one of your most favorite parts of this part of your story, this chapter that you're living right now?
I wake up with such purpose every day because there is something I want to write about. There's a
Mm.
story I want to tell. Sometimes it's about family. Sometimes it's about sitting in the parking lot doing a podcast because your car was having a problem. I mean, I I just think that life
Yeah.
gives us such rich material, and if we look at something and analyze it and see what do I need to learn about this? What meaning do I derive from this moment? And I love sharing that. I love sharing ridiculous stories. There's an essay in Belonging Matters. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday, and it was his favorite. He said that essay about what to say to ridiculous people in unbelievable situations. He said it so resonated with me, and while it wasn't, I mean, I was the vehicle for writing the story. It was my husband's words,
Oh,
which basically are just get over yourself. The wisdom that we should all have about ourselves. Sometimes we take ourselves just so seriously,
great.
when really, if we could lighten up and be patient and kind,
I
uh, we can get through the day a lot better.
I love it. I'm glad you shared. I was like, come on, you're gonna tell us, right? Get over.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
just
like,
get over
yeah,
yourself.
get over yourself. I know as far as manifesting, I would love to know your understanding of the word. I know this is not, go ahead.
Well, it's coming up with an idea or a thought or a wish or dream and saying out loud to yourself. Maybe it's saying it to other people. And then, as often as you say that to yourself and to other people, you start to believe that maybe it's possible. And then, hopefully, it, the universe makes those manifestations come true, as long as we're patient. Yeah,
Oh, I love it. Going back to your patient and kind,
yeah.
yourself, right? Have you felt that you were intentional and the things that you intended have been manifested thus far?
Yes, I'm still waiting for a lot of things to happen. So I think we're never done coming up with goals and dreams, no matter what stage of life we're in. Um, I'm hoping for a granddaughter soon because all I have is grandsons.
Oh,
So
geez.
I'm
Well,
manifesting that to this group right now.
oh, I love it. I love it. Maybe if one of your children are listening,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
they're listening. They know how I feel about this. I'm wearing my pink right now.
I love it. So at the beginning of the interview, I asked you to set your intention for today. And then I asked you, I asked generally at this point, pick a number in the magical guide that would correspond to that intention. So what was your intention for this interview today?
To be present, to
Mhm.
just really listen to the questions in the conversation and be able to respond, at the drop of a hat, what was in my heart and in my head.
Oh, wow. And what was the insight from the magical guide that aligned to that intention today?
To find people to guide you, to find experts or people that influence that can help you on your journey.
You're a mentor to many people. You guide many people and you help them. You've shown up in spaces where you are that bright light that you say offers hope to their possibilities and their dreams of perhaps finding their birth families and keeping that story going for others. Did you ever think that that was going to be the outcome of you setting out to write the story?
No, no. I mean, if you would have told me at 25 years old that I was going to champion adoption and talk about it freely and openly, I would have never, I
Oh,
would have laughed at you.
that's amazing. And you know what, like as far as your sister is concerned, how has this whole experience with you writing, is she an author as well? I'll just ask you
She's
that.
not. She's still working. She's a sales coach for major corporations, and she hosted me at her book club,
Oh,
which
very
was
cool.
really fun to be in the same physical space. And she's a big supporter of everything that I do, which is great.
And is she enjoying this part of telling the story or sharing the story?
We all are so happy with how our story and the book ends. We have these two amazing new siblings in our lives that
Well,
we're like best friends, and
amazing.
we share the same father. We don't share the same mother. We have had so much fun with that part of the story and continue to.
Well, I'm so glad that, the outcome came with more love added to your family and to your experience and I think that has a lot to do with the who you are and how you show up in the world. You're definitely this loving energy, and I really want to, recognize that. And
Thanks.
you're very generous, and you're an incredibly kind and thoughtful person. It does show up in your book as well. Twice a daughter. I have to read Belonging Matters, but I love Twice a Daughter. This is my season 7 of Live, Laugh, Love, and Play, and I keep saying,
Woohoo!
I know, woo! I keep saying, how do we all show up manifesting, but in a playful, more joyous way, where those concepts of live, laugh, love really permeate our lives? Is there somehow you can offer some other, wisdom as to how you play more?
When I am in a bad spot, whether it with an idea or a piece of writing or just a bad mood, I go for a walk. And there is just something about being outside, switching gears, moving your body that allows change and laughter to come and reconnection. So, you don't have to be an athlete. You could just put on your sneakers and just go for a walk around the block or take your dog for a walk and let your mind go. Don't maybe don't get too serious about
So
it.
we do want to make sure we can find you and your beautiful books. So where would you recommend that people go to if they want to read more about Twice a Daughter, Belonging Matters, and your upcoming get information with regard to Twice a Family?
They can go to my website, juliemcgueauthor.com. I also write a twice monthly blog, so you could subscribe to the newsletter and hear about what I'm thinking about and writing about this week.
And certainly, if you have any friends out there, I'm speaking to the audience, that may be challenged by their own experience with adoption or know someone who is struggling, I think Julie is an incredible resource. Certainly, where that genealogist may have helped you along your journey, you've now created a niche where you do, in fact, help others along. So go to Julie McGue. It's JuliemCgue, author, author.com, and touch base with her. And I know that you do go to book clubs. You just said that you went to your sister's, but you also
Yeah,
offer that on Zoom as well to anyone else who's interested in having you speak to them. So
yeah, absolutely.
do they contact you on that same
Yes, yeah,
okay.
there's a email that you can tap the link and it I love talking to book clubs because it's a personal experience and there's always somebody in the group that's in the adopted circle and we can have a frank, honest conversation.
So I obviously love the picture of Twice a Daughter as you and your twin sister. On Belonging Matters, it's a really interesting cover. It has a face, but it's got all these reds and yellows. What was the intention behind the cover on the second book?
Well, the editorial team came up with the colors, but what was important to me was all those question marks that are
Oh,
coming out of her head.
I
So
love.
I think the color is attention getting. I love a lot of color, obviously, so I thought the bright sunny yellows and the bright reds were attention getting.
Yeah, the question marks. That's amazing. The question marks of, those conversations that answer questions or actually bring up more that you can follow through with. I love that. That's really awesome. What is your final inspiration to bring more cheer? Pass it on, please.
Oh, just keep smiling whenever even when it hurts, just to give somebody a smile. You have no idea how they might turn around their day, but might turn around their mood and do something good for somebody else.
I love that. Keep smiling. That's a wonderful way to continue our day. And with that, Julie, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you so much for your books and so much for just knowing you and you in the world. I know that you make everywhere you go a better place. Time to manifest now. Go out there living fully, loving more, laughing more intently, but really, be more patient and kind. I think that goes back to that beautiful quote that you brought to our attention, because I think if we start there, I think we would be able to smile more by accepting that. So I want to really thank you for that reminder. And it's a wonderful reminder. And I think that if you show up with that kind of energy in the world, certainly it helps us all. And I want to send you manifesting energy for your screenplay, for everything as it unfolds. And I want to remind everybody, if you don't want to just read the book, there's audiobooks available as well on Amazon and wherever books are sold. So go out and reach out to Julie. Thank you again for everything. This has been awesome. You are the best. I appreciate it. And
Thank you,
everyone,
Meg.
cheers, everyone. Amazing.